it'd be good for you to spend some time with kids who don't run around with cameras and monster makeup.
So I was looking through. I don't know if you can see this, but this is Gore Zone number 9 and Fangoria number 92, and this is the one that Ed Martinez was in. You know, he's been sort of sending me messages about that, and because he did some stuff on the Dead Pit, and I knew I had a copy of this thing, and it covered the dead. Is that reversed to you, or is that the right way around for you?
No, it actually looks right. It looks perfect.
Okay, so I used to have this. And I was trying to find it because I knew I had something with the Dead Pit in it, and I remember this sort of big, shiny baby thing on the front. I'm sure it's not, but it just looks like a fat baby to me. But yeah, so it was just like, oh yeah, I've got something on the Dead Pit, and I was trying to find it, and I couldn't find it, so I found it on like eBay, and it was like it cost the same as the magazine did when it came out. These things haven't increased in value, which I'm really pleased about.
Wow!
So it's really cheap for me to.
Or somebody doesn't know how to increase prices for a collector's item.
I am not going to grumble with that. So I've been reading through these old Gore Zones and Fangorias and getting very misty-eyed looking at all the stuff in it. But also when you read it, like the language and the way things are explained and everything, it's quite amazing how much things have changed. It's very strange. And the ads in the back. This one still has the posters in it. I think that might be.
Oh, nice.
I don't know. I haven't taken them out yet, but so that's cool. And then like the little ads in there as well. Like, oh, this. I remember reading this.
Overweight, middle-aged male looking for a companion. Not those kind of ads.
The one.
It looks brand new.
It's good, isn't it? It's
Wow.
in mint condition. Yeah. So the Mark Shostrom Makeup Effects Lab. Looking at the suit on Ted Raimi for Evil Dead. It's fantastic. So much fun. So I get all gooey-eyed looking at those going, oh, I used to love those. And I'm like, this is why I like doing a podcast and writing blog posts, because it hasn't gone away. So that's fun. So there we go. So how has everyone's day been? Danny, how you been?
Oh, I'd like to say busy, but not that busy. Quite relaxing. Well, in a strange sort of way.
So have you been able to do anything productive with your lockdown, or has it just been an absolute fucking chore?
I've tried. I've seen other people doing amazing things. I sort of feel guilty that I haven't really done anything, but yeah, I've tried. I've not succeeded, but I've tried.
But that's the thing, isn't it? It's like everyone compares themselves to what they're seeing on Facebook, and it's like this beautifully curated, best version of oneself, and it's not real. I get very depressed looking at some of the things I see on there. I was looking through Instagram and seeing Sebastian Lockman sculpts of this ape head. Have you seen that? And it's just like, I just can't cut my hands off. What's the point? I mean, in that case, they are like, that is real. That is how he does. He's just amazing. So
I see what Rick Baker does, and then I just go curl up in a ball for a while.
It's been amazing seeing everybody really pulling together. Some people have done incredible things. There's been a lot of education, which has been really beneficial. But I just think for me, I've concentrated more on just getting through it.
Yeah.
Just getting through it, making sure my family's fine, making sure everyone's healthy and happy, and, not trying to put too much pressure on myself to sort of achieve these amazing things during such a difficult period. So I've done bits and pieces, and, I'm quite an active person anyway, so I'm constantly doing something, but I've not really put any kind of pressure on myself to push, any sort of productivity at the moment, which I think is good to allow yourself to do that, because too much pressure at this time can really, be a boiling point.
Yeah, you get burnt out soon, because I think, it made me realize, like, of all the times that I've worked on things and I've worked really hard, you're working out on something that somebody else has arranged, and it's somebody else's deadline. So there's a whole bunch of stuff you don't need to generate. You just need to focus your attention on the 2 or 3 things that are required of you. And yet when it's open-ended like this, it's quite hard, isn't it? Because you think, I am going to be the author and the composer and and every musical section of the symphony, and it better be a fucking good symphony. And no one can function like, or maybe a few can, and you see them on, you know, social media, and then you compare yourself. You go, but that's
I've got a list of
freakishly
personal
unusual.
projects I've been wanting to try to do, and I haven't scratched a single freaking thing off the list.
It's scary, isn't it?
Well, same. I feel the
No,
same
my
way.
alcohol-
Every day I wake up with such a massive list of, right, I'm going to do this, I'm going to tackle this, I'm going to do that. And then you just think, well, actually, I never get time really to concentrate on just normal, everyday, boring human tasks. So I sort of left that go after, you know, the first 2 months of like this need to be as productive as you would be if you was out there working, because, you know, I think most people that know me, I'm sort of a workaholic, and I love it. I love going to work. I love those hours. I love the stressful environments, but this is something completely different. So try and take that attitude and put it in this sort of setting it's not great for your mental health. And I think, you know, this is a good time to sort of go the other way and sort of concentrate on mental health, healing, having time with people. You know, I think most people have realized that connection is just the most important thing ever, especially if you've been in the house for months on end. You really miss that sort of personal connection with people, being able to talk and, you know, being able to concentrate on that, the things that we don't actually often get chance to do because we're on set for 16 hours plus 6 days a week. It's sort of changed my attitude towards a lot of things. I've rethought a lot of things during this time. So in a way, I'm quite grateful to have had this time to be able to sort of change the way I think about things. And, you know, let's hope that I can maintain this when those hours are a reality again, and going back on set is part of a day-to-day thing, because I'd really like to sort of be able to keep this going.
Have you started prepping for when everybody gets back to work? Have you started putting together your post-COVID
I've been through my kit probably a million times, but, you know, I think that I was pretty OCD anyway. Anyone that's worked with me knows that my kit always has been decanted. It always has been labeled. You know, I sterilize everything religiously anyway. So when I really started to look at what I was doing, there's not much that I'm actually implementing as a change, because I found that a lot of the things that was being asked of us, and I have read everything that's come out, I've been a part of all the discussions, I've talked to multiple designers, there's not much generally that I need to change. The only thing that I will be putting in place is UV sterilizations, making sure that my work surfaces, I have different mats. I now have a little cleaning bag that comes with me, and obviously the personal protective equipment. But apart from that, it hasn't been too much of a huge change really in terms of how I keep my kit, what I store, how I'm storing it, how I maintain it, and how I clean it, because I've always done that anyway. And I think a lot of makeup artists started to realize that actually, you know, we have been doing this for such a long time now. The only thing that I think I'm going to struggle with is the PPE, the masks and the visors, and only because I have problems with my airways. So it's quite difficult really to keep those on for prolonged periods of time. But as far as like kit wise, I think that, you know, everything, I'm quite comfortable with like how that's being maintained, and I think everything's going to be fine once we get going. The ball gets rolling. It's going to be a lot easier than we think. Fingers crossed. You know,
Well, I think as crafts go, hair and makeup are probably going to have an easier adjustment than camera and grip departments, because, as you said, we already do clean everything pretty rigorously and religiously. And the only real change is going to be the PPE, the, you know, more gloves, face masks, shields, that kind of stuff. I've gotten a couple of great UVC lamps that will kill anything. You don't even want to look at it because it'll burn you if you aren't using it properly.
And the only thing that I have seen that worries me about this UV sterilization processes and stuff, there's a lot of UV ones. And initially I thought, that's great. You know, you could have this UV wand or these UV set bags that people can just carry around. And there has been information that's come out now saying that you have to be extremely careful with how much you use in UV, because it is powerful and it can cause health problems. So I think that's one thing that we do. You know, people need to be aware of, that you shouldn't be wearing UV sterilizing equipment on your person. You shouldn't be using wands. You should be using sealed, you know, sterilization boxes that you then put in your tools in. Another thing that I've changed as well is I've changed all my tools are now metal. It's easier to clean. And also any disposables that I have, cotton buds, mascara ones, they're all in individually sealed packages, just so that I'm not carrying around open lots of disposables that's open, because that's what I was doing before. Even though they were in cases, you're taking them to lots of different places. So that's the only thing really that I've changed in that sense. But
yeah,
I think we change things constantly, don't we?
We do. I mean, I think the biggest danger is, I mean, on an individual level, I think everyone's got what they've got and know how to use it. I mean, you know, in the mold shop, we've been wearing gloves, paper suits, and masks for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
so that doesn't worry me so much. But it's more the fact now everyone's pretty much going to be doing that has an increase in cost and has an increase in time, and people can't really rush you if you need 25 minutes to clean your kit before you go. You know what I mean? You can't just hurry up like you did before when there was apparently nothing in the world that was infectious, so it didn't matter if you just hurried up. Do you know what I mean? So what is the eventual cost of that as a kind of a, do you know what I mean? It's gonna be a slower ship to turn around. It's gonna be like, you know, what you expect to get in a day, you're now gonna have to do in 2 days, because we have to account for the fact that people need a bit more time to get through an exit, or it all adds up. Every single step.
One day shoots are now going to be 2 day shoots.
So does that mean everything gets doubled in price? And is that now going to go, maybe they don't have an infection anymore, or maybe that's all digital because you know what I mean? It's just like, because some of those things are going to be just a headache for someone somewhere.
Time will tell.
Because there has to be lots of people in the room. I don't know, but on an individual level, I think we're all kind of getting by. Anyway, we won't know. We won't know. It might all calm down, and this time next year we'll be all injected with the thing, and the nanobots and the microchips will make us all better. And Jeff Bezos will rule the world, and it'll be fine.
Oh, I know, but we can't. You know, it is a lot to think about, and it is something that can keep you up at night. I think, you know, the best thing. You know what I'm thinking is just, you know, I'm going to be guided production to production. I'm going to make sure I keep myself safe at all times. I don't want to put myself in any kind of risk. You know, and if you are being pushed and you are being, you know, forced to do something you think is unsafe, I've definitely made that decision that I won't be doing that. Whether that means,
yes, well, you
know, not continuing it.
No, but you will have, certainly, I'm sure we all have been in situations where you know something's dodgy, or you know you've been pushed too far, you've been working too many hours or whatever, and you couldn't really have said anything without it being a massive problem, possibly. Whereas now I think everyone's so worried about getting sued, or so worried about what the outcomes are. They're actually going to be someone whose job it is to fucking listen to every little whisper and worry and be there ready to put it out, which is kind of good in the sense that maybe people won't be fucking exhausted all the time. Maybe, but I've only ever fallen asleep once at the wheel, but do you know what I mean? It's like, that was once too many. So, you know, maybe that could have a positive effect. It could go the other way. Maybe just actually filming will be a much nicer thing to do in 5 years from now. So
wouldn't that be
I'm
nice?
Definitely hoping. I'm hoping for it. In reality, I think it might not go that way, but I'm definitely optimistic that, you know, people's concerns and we will be listened to. Whether that's going to happen or not is just for the future to see how it all plays out. But I'm looking forward to going back to work. I'm looking forward to doing the job. And I'm hopeful to see how everything sort of works itself out.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing good things so far. So
yeah, I think it could be very cool. Anyway, we didn't want to talk about COVID. How much it's tipped our lives up like a lunchbox hit by a bully in the lunch hall. We want to talk about how good your work is and how many cool things you've done. I was thinking, like with most things, we like to talk about, you know, different aspects of things. Something I think that we've seen of you, which I think is quite interesting, and I haven't seen many people do, is how you've combined like fashion stuff and quite high concept stuff using prosthetics. It's almost like the makeup's not about the prosthetic, it's about something else, and you've employed prosthetics in it to create something new. So it would be quite nice to talk about that if you're cool with that.
Yeah, we can talk.
Well, because like Todd and I were both at that IMATS. I think it was LA 2017. Was it the 20 year
16
anniversary?
Or 17. Yeah, I think it was the anniversary year.
It was the anniversary, and you had done something. You were on the Titanic stand. You were doing this big makeup, and I remember you talking about pressure. I remember you like it coming to the end of when your allotted time was, and you were just going like a whirling, like I don't know what.
I've got pictures of that somewhere.
I seem to remember as well. It was a little bit risky what I was doing. So I decided that I wanted to push the boundaries with it. I wanted to show this androgynous look, but obviously I went for something that was completely nude, a nude look. So there was no big colour, no big paint jobs. It was all about fine lines and geometric shapes.
And there were like crystal shards in there as well, wasn't there? Loads of crystalline kind of patterns and stuff.
And I deliberately wanted to make it, quite, you know, for a body painting, you're used to seeing bright colours, a lot of paint. It's almost like, you know, they completely cover the body from head to toe. And what I wanted to do was do something that was the polar opposite to that. I wanted to cover as little as possible and show as much as possible. And at one point, I remember, you know, I didn't think it was going to be as shocking as it was. I remember starting it off and actually being told, well, maybe you should just paint it blue. This is a little bit too risky. And I was adamant that I wasn't going to do that.
Really?
Yeah,
I wasn't aware of that.
They nearly shut it down completely. I nearly didn't get a chance to show it at all because I think it was just surprising for people that I was doing it on the body and it was flesh toned and it wasn't going to cover the more, you know, nothing was on show. But, you know, it was very androgynous. It was sexless. The piece was sexless. But there was a lot of skin because I wanted to show, even though there wasn't a lot of skin, there was a lot of prosthetics on there, but I wanted to make it look.
Like they weren't prosthetics, it was the skin.
That it was skin and we would almost see something internal, you know. But I do remember being pulled aside at one point and being told that I could do the makeup. So the compromise was I could do the makeup, but I needed to cover and only work on sections of the body until it was finished, and then for it to be seen and removed as quickly as possible.
Amazing. But we Americans that sort of
can certainly be prudish.
But I think if I didn't genuinely have a vision for that makeup, and if I hadn't tested things out and I knew exactly where I wanted to go with it, maybe I would have deferred from it. But, you know, it was a half an hour, quite an intense conversation of trying to convince everyone that this was going to be fine, it was going to be good, and just to let me carry on.
Were they happy with it in the end? Did you pass muster? Was it acceptable?
I think so. I was happy with it. I think anytime
Deborah sure spent a lot of time photographing it.
I think anytime you do anything different, you've got to expect, you know, I wanted it to be surprising. So the fact that happened was the exact reaction that I was looking to get from the piece.
Right. I think this is what I like about how you approach things, because I see a lot of people doing makeups and they're kind of, it's almost like they're leading with the processes of the makeup first. They want to show that they've mastered everything process wise, and they'll come up with a competent but unimaginative makeup. Whereas it seems to me like you've got your processes down, you know your materials, and it's almost like now that's been kind of understood, that's not as important as, right, what do we do with this? And you focus very much on what it is you're going to create with it. So you've done some big things. I remember the trade, because I haven't seen a lot of your stuff. I haven't been around you when you've been we haven't worked together on anything. I don't think, one or two.
What a shame.
But I've seen you at trade shows, and it's always nice when you do these big things and they're just the elaborate things. Like there was that thing you did on Keras, I think, the London IMATs, and it was like a big
Oh, yeah.
playing cards thing. It was like a big, or is it a candy thing? It was big. It was just big. There was just lots of things projecting out from the body, and there was a lot of color. And it was, again, just like a kind of an assault on the senses, but without being that thing where you see at a lot of these shows where people are just trying to shout very loud with as much of everything as possible. It's quite a delicate balance to kind of do, isn't it? Otherwise it's like a nest of birds all screaming for the worm. You don't really know where to look because there's just so many things happening at once.
I think for me,
yeah.
I've never really gone out my way to intentionally, I never sit down and think, right, I want to do something spectacular. I think for me, what I normally, and how I approach it, is normally from concept, so an idea or a feeling or some kind of expression, and then the trade shows for me has never been a pressurized situation. I know a lot of artists go there and it's a portfolio piece. But I think because I started doing them, I had the opportunity quite young to go, and when I was working at Gorton Studios, it was a fun thing to do. It was like, it wasn't specifically, this is your time to shine moment. It was just, do you want to do it? Do you have something you want to show? And it was sort of fun because everything that you do up until that point is so stressful and is so precise. Working on set is so demanding. You have to be so precise with everything. Everything needs to be perfect. The applications need to be perfect. And what the trade shows were for me really was a chance to discover myself, discover a style, and try new things. So every time I've gone, I've not really known how it's going to work out. I've never gone there thinking this is a finished piece. It's normally something, an idea that I've not been able to do for any other time, that either I'm getting some help with the materials, or there's an opportunity to go and represent a certain company, or, just go in there to meet people. And I've never taken it to be an opportunity to produce a portfolio piece. It's always been a work in progress. I remember one time going and I did this sort of very beautiful lizard makeup, and I don't think everything I've ever done for a trade show has been done within 3 days before the show. Because up until that point, I'm working and I have to concentrate on what I'm doing on set. Then you sort of get day release, or, a few days before you have that little bit of pressure, or I might have had an idea a month or so ago, and then I've got those 3 days to sort of do it. And I did this lizard makeup, and I remember being there, early hours of the morning. I still hadn't put a costume together, and I'd vacuum formed. I was thinking about doing something else, and I was looking at the vac form sheets, the grid that you get when you've not put anything in the vac form. And I was thinking, well, that looks like lizard skin. So I just remember sitting there all night and just pouring 2 or 3 layers into trays with the grid from the vac form, and then peeling them all out and somehow making some bodice to it. But it didn't have a back because I ran out of time. So by the time I got to the back of the costume, I was being asked to go in the car because we needed to leave for London.
Terrifying.
So I turned up to the show and I only had the front part of the costume. I was thinking, what am I going to do for the back? And I just remember grabbing some fabric and thinking, I'll figure it out. But so I did the makeup, and then I was thinking, right, I don't actually know what I'm going to do for this costume now. I can't let her walk around with nothing at the back. So I remember just taking in front of everyone. So you've got everybody coming over saying hi. I'm doing the makeup. I've just finished the makeup, and I'm thinking, how am I going to put this costume together? So I just gaffer taped it at the back and then draped these fabrics down. And, and people coming to you going, oh, you must have worked for months to do this. And I was thinking, well, I'm glad it looks that way, but it's really not. So I love it when I see students there and I see students demonstrating and I'm seeing them put their work together. And the first thing that they say is, oh, it could be better or it could be this. I just think, hey, look, relax. This is a moment to be happy. I remember being a student sitting at IMATS. I went every year. I would travel from Wales. I'd normally only have enough for a 1-day ticket. So I would drive there by myself, sort of get my notebook. I wasn't really interested in the stores, but I'd make sure I'd go around, take notes from every demonstration, sit in the front row, watch every talk. And I still like to do that. They're great events. They're there to learn. And, to be a part of doing those things is just joyous. It's not supposed to be stressful. It's supposed to be, an enjoyable experience that you get to share with other people. And if it doesn't go quite right, hey, it's fine. We're not filming it today.
I think it's amazing.
I always learn something.
Yeah, like you're doing these things. You're doing these things, and the people who are watching you do it maybe don't realize that they're witnessing you coming up with stuff on the fly. Do you know what I mean? But they see the finished thing.
Yeah.
And
and it frequently turns into a teachable moment when an edge flops over and it's not supposed to, and you gotta fix it. It's you don't wish for teachable moments, but when they happen, they're kind of serendipitous because as an educator, that's what we do.
I did a demonstration. Oh, go on, Todd.
No, I was just you talking about trying to finish your costume on the fly, and you got to get to the airport, and it's still not done. It reminds me a little bit of the Bela Lugosi makeup that Stuart did for the Rick Baker tribute, when he's brings the molds over and he's casting pieces in Dallas, and he's coming up here, and it was that was probably a little more stressful than you would hope it would be. Plus, Rick Baker's going to be there going,
I think that's nice, though, like, that's what I enjoy about set work. I do, I spend 95% of what I do. I'm on set. I'm an on-set artist. I'm not in the workshop. So I'm used to having phone calls, at 7:00 in the evening, and then, a huge panic. Something needs to be done. Something needs to be made. I thrive on that sort of environment. I always have done. So that's the part that I really like. It is stressful and it is tiring, but it's the problem solving and it's the discovery of new things. The only time that I learn is when I'm under so much intense pressure. I need to find another way.
You haven't got a way out. You've got to figure it.
You can't not deliver. If it needs to be on set, you have to deliver something. So if you haven't got the time to do it the right way, then do it the wrong way and make sure it works.
That's a really good way of putting it.
Stuart and I were just talking about this in the podcast we recorded a couple of days ago, where you gotta have a deadline that's not going to change, and people keep piling more stuff onto your plate, and it's got to get done. So quit fidgeting around and just got to get to it. I find myself, I'm more productive when I have lots to do than when I have a pretty idle schedule. I know it sounds like, well, of course you get more done because you've got more on your plate, but it forces you to focus. And I think that's where the productivity comes from.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, it's really encouraging, like when you were saying, like, oh, you had these things and you had to try and fix them. Because what I would want is someone who's listening to this that hasn't really maybe started out yet, hears this, that, oh, shit, the people that do this for a living have these things thrown at them and they don't know the answers, but they trust from experience that they're going to figure it out. They don't need to know the answers to start attempting to fix it. The thing is to actually push forward into that area of discomfort and try, because that's where you've discovered that actually you can come up with a solution. It may not be the best solution, but it's a solution, like you're saying. Maybe do it the wrong way and make it work. I think that's a great
moments of discovery. Fantastic. Those great light bulb moments can happen in some of those instances of sheer panic.
Oh God.
So I agree.
So Danny, tell us about what was the 10-year-old Danny doing? Were you covered in blood? Were you scaring people with fake blood and making people up and blowing up the cat with whatever? Not literally,
Yeah.
that sounds horrible. But you know what I mean? Just making horrible scenes with various things, or
I think it's really funny. I mean, I never even knew makeup was a job. It just wasn't a reality, really. It wasn't something. I really love it when I hear stories of people that were making things when they were so young, making prosthetics at 12. Even now, so much information is available to people, seeing teenagers playing with these things. It's just really inspiring for me to see. But I didn't know any of that sort of existed. Anything on TV was such a far stretch to think that anybody actually worked on these things. It didn't exist in my world at that time. But yeah, I was pretty. Yeah, I would make anything. I think if you ask my parents, they still laugh about it now. They had two very normal children and one very crazy one. So, and I remember sharing a room with my sister, and at one point she drew a line down the middle of the room because she was just like, keep all this crazy stuff on this side, because I would cut things. I would cut up magazines. I would make collages, anything that I could do that was creative, I would be doing it. And I remember convincing my mother to let me sort of move my bedroom to the attic room, and it was an attic room. And
Wow.
To discourage me, she sort of went, well, if you paint it and sort it out yourself, then you can stay there. So I spent sort of a month sorting everything out, boxing everything up, taking a bed there. And I finally had a space that I could really go to town. Nobody was interested in that attic space. Nobody was interested in those walls. So I remember, oh my God, what color did I paint it? Like bright orange in places with, colored dots everywhere. And I took some poetry and wrote it all over the wall. So I've always been a little bit sort of artistic, really.
Yeah, but you've combined it with effort, because that takes that's sustained effort. Like you said, your parents probably threw that at you thinking, "Oh, this will see her off." And then,
No, they never thought I'd
three
do
weeks
it.
later, you're still boxing stuff up and taking tins of paint up and making it right. I mean, that's different. A lot of people have whims that they won't see through, but to actually add the efforts to the intention and sustain it. That's actually
And at a
the
young
secret
age.
rule,
That's
isn't it?
great.
I
Yeah,
think I have the gift and the torture of tunnel vision. So once there's something that I think is achievable that I can do, then that tunnel vision sort of kicks in and my head goes down and I drive it until I get to the place that I want to be, really, which is a gift and also a little bit not so much of a gift at the same time, because I've obviously realized as you grow and especially in adulthood, that tunnel vision doesn't always lead you to the best place. So it's to try and maintain the focus without sort of pushing yourself in places that you don't necessarily need to go, if that makes sense. So it's having tunnel vision, but the option of a side tunnel every now and again.
Yeah.
That's a very good way of putting it. I like that. Yeah, because you've got to see it through, but also equally, if you flip from thing to thing, and I can be guilty of that, you're never going to get anything done. You'll just be surrounded by a million unfinished projects, which strangely is exactly what I'm looking at around. But, I do come through on occasion. It's just because you get really into something and then, that kind of fizzles out. There's a really good book that Seth Godin wrote called The Dip. It's a very short book. I'll see if I can find it. It's up there somewhere. And it's about that process. It's about, I'll put a link to it in the show notes, but it's about, that thing of when you start something full of intent and gradually you run out of steam and then you hit a snag and then you hit a series of snags and you hit this dip. And if you push, you come through the other side. And a lot of people don't get past that dip. And I think that is the secret to a lot of it. It's just bloody minded persistence.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
I wouldn't have really thought that, it took me 3 years to get a trainee position. It took me 3 years, looking back now. I mean, you see university students, college students, and they're having opportunities straight out from college. I just think is amazing, because I didn't go through that. It was, it was a long journey of really trying to push. And I think there was 60 other students that I
Wow.
trained with. And, I was the only one to sort of come out from the other side of that dip. So in a way, I'm really glad I had that, that tunnel vision, but also, you have to reassess things every now and again, change directions, make sure you're doing the right thing, and not just forcing yourself through it.
Damn, some good advice. That's real. That's it. I mean, I think this is what I really like about this podcast, is speaking to other people about what it is that they do, because everyone is successful and good at something that they love, and we'll see pictures of them sometimes in magazines, but there's no one really explaining what went behind it, or why it was difficult, or what it was that they found about something. Because I think, like, when you see a lot of those really nice makeups at trade shows, they're ones that have been prepared in advance. They maybe had test makeups. They've refined it to like a performance, which is great. It's really good. But if you want to know about how to play an instrument rather than just what a well-played instrument sounds like, it's quite nice to see people struggling and then going through with you what the struggle was, and the things that they maybe had to overcome that you don't even know.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Well, I think that's one of the common themes that runs through all of these podcasts, is that, it's okay to not be satisfied with your work and to be outside your comfort zone and have that, I think it's like a nagging anxiety. It's just what keeps pushing us all forward.
Yeah. I do think, though, that I quite often see people, they post their work, or you can see there's a tremendous amount of effort that's been done, and it's really beautiful work, and they start the sentence with work in progress, it could be better, and then list all the things they're unhappy with it as this, putting that piece of work out into the world. And one thing that I've really tried not to do, because I think all artists, we're all self-critical. We criticize ourselves to such an extreme that sometimes I think a little bit of self-love. So, I encourage myself, and I encourage the people that work around me, if you've done something good, say it out loud. And if someone pays you a compliment, say thank you. Don't deter that with, well, I could have done this better, I could have done that better, because the criticism and the constructive criticism that we all do, that comes later. And in that moment, there might be a few things that you don't like about the application or about how you've made something, but it's on and it's done, and there's going to be a list of things that you really love about it as well. So I just think after I've done something, I do try and say, I think those edges are great. I think the color choice that I did was great. I really love that. I'm going to leave myself later when I'm in the hotel room to write my notes and go through all the pointers to make sure things are better the next day and the day after that. I know that I do that. So that's fine. I welcome constructive criticism, especially, from the people that's working around you and stuff. It's important to listen to their opinions and stuff. And also, I think it's good to analyze your own work. But I also think that just a little bit of self-love, a little bit of kindness towards yourself, tell yourself the things that you've done well, will just give you such a boost, and it'll help you. It helps your work. If we rip ourselves apart too much, then, it comes to a point where you can't enjoy that work anymore. Yeah. So I think the best thing for anybody going into this industry is to remember that you don't need to tell your colleague what you hate, but you can tell them what you love. You can tell them what you did good, and as the people, we all have a responsibility as artists to encourage that, because I think it's a culture of, I don't want to seem like I'm too happy with what I've done just in case they see the flaws. But I think it's okay, I really do think it's okay. And I think it surprises people sometimes, especially, if they've never worked with me before. Quite often in prosthetics, you do an application with a partner. You might never have met them before. You don't know what the dynamic is going to be like. I think it does. You know, I've worked with people before they've said, you know, oh, you don't need anyone to sort of compliment your work. And I thought, well, I don't want to wait for somebody else to compliment something that I think is good that I've done, because I just want to appreciate the fact that I've done my utmost. I've done my best. I've given 150%. I really like, you know, aspects of what I've done, and I'm happy to say it. And then, you know, you see this sort of, you see them being able to do it, you know. And what's really nice is to be able to work with someone who believes it's right to not be too complimentary about their own work, and they don't want to say anything positive about what they've done just in case, you know, they might get a negative reaction to it. Then they see you doing it, and the first reaction you get is, oh, you're not supposed to do that. That's not allowed. We're not allowed to compliment ourselves. And then within a week, you're surrounded by people going, did you see what I did? It was awesome. This was great. And I'm like, yes, it was great. It was really good. Well done. Now let's get on set. Let's work these hours, you know, because we work so hard. So we might as well enjoy, and we might as well be happy with what we've done. And if there's problems, we're going to fix them. We're going to make sure it's good for camera. So
well, it's supposed to be fun.
Criticism for the hotel, you know?
Yeah, because that's the thing, isn't it?
Later.
Yeah, because if you think, oh, I really did that edge right, or that was, you know, this went down really well, that doesn't also mean, in brackets, I don't think any of this can be improved. Like you say, it's like, it's a case of, it's an equal measure thing, isn't it? Like you say, to be, to notice the good things as well as the bad, because if you only spot the bad things, you wouldn't say that about somebody else's work to their face. Or why would you say it to yourself? Because you weigh yourself
I always, you know, I'm very like, you know, critical over what I've done, and I can always see exactly where the faults are. And I just think, you know, as an artist, we learn on a daily basis. It never changes. Whether you're 13 or whether you're 90, there will always be something. They will never, I can honestly say I've never done anything where I can say that's perfect. I really love, you know, everything about that is perfect. Even things I love. I think, you know, I really love the color choices, but actually I might have wrote down in my notes to change the color mixture, or, you know, I'm happy with it in that moment in time with my abilities as they are. And that was the best that I could possibly achieve. You know, I just think it's great to be able to go to work and to be able to give yourself that little bit of confidence of like, I'm going to go, I'm going to give 150%, I'm going to deliver as best I can in this very moment in time, and I'm going to be happy with that, and I'm not going to tear myself apart because I can't achieve something that I'm not ready to achieve yet. Mm-hmm. So, and I think it's really important, like, that as a community of artists, that we don't do that to other artists. We don't make people feel that they can't say it out loud, because I think saying it out loud makes it real. It gives you a boost to your self-worth, you know, and it makes other people feel like they can say it too. Mm-hmm. And we don't need to sit around together and share our constructive criticism points. We can, if we're learning from it, we can do that as well. But I also think if we're going to do that, we should do the positive side that goes with it. And it breeds such a healthy environment. You know, it breeds a much happier, healthy environment to work in.
Oh, yeah. If you are giving some negative comments about something, you've got to balance it out with positives as well. I mean, that's a must.
Yeah, there's a lot of that on Facebook, isn't there, and stuff, where a lot of people tear into things. You've seen it on forums where they get disrupted, but I've never really heard anyone articulate that, Danny, where someone is pointing out specifically, look, if you're creating something, you know, take some time to actually recognize what you did that was worth that was good and makes it worth something. Because the danger is, I suppose, if you just criticize everything all the time and that becomes your default position, you start thinking that everything you've done is worthless. And it's like, that's not the case at all. It's just, it's not going to be perfect, but there is something in it that was amazing, or a lot in it that was really good, and it will make you closer to the better thing next time. And so don't throw that away. It's
no matter how good. Go ahead.
Oh, I think you sort of learn this from teaching. Like, the more you teach, the more you realize that when you have a student, they might be, you have such a mixed bag when you're teaching. You really do. And I love teaching as well. I really do. And yeah, you normally have such a mixed bag of personalities, abilities, natural talent, people that have grafted and worked hard. And when you're trying to explain to new artists coming in how they should feel when they've completed something, it's nothing better than saying to a student, this is great. I'm watching their faces light up because they actually achieved what they set out to achieve. I just think, as a professional, surely we should be doing this as well, and I'm a very critical person anyway. I like to be perfect. And as an adult, I've sort of realized that perfection is there's no such thing as perfection. It's just, you're just learning to progress. That's it. There's no perfection. And I have books, files, lots of files. Every single job that I do, I document. So it'd be really interesting at the end of my career to show them. But I often show them to trainees. And what I do, say, for example, ball caps, or if it's a specific thing or a specific technique, every time I do an application or every time I make something, I take just a little bit of time just to write down how and what I did, what was good and what was bad. And then just because it might be months before you do another ball cap, it might be, jobs vary so much. And because I do hair and makeup as well, even on a yearly basis, the pattern of my work changes. So last year I did a lot of hair work. The year before was very prosthetic focused. And then in the middle of all of this, you've got other things. So, it's really important to keep these things, because when you do get a call for a specific kind of job, before I go on to that job, I just go back through and I see the last one that I did. And then I sort of recap on what was good, what was bad, what I used, if there's anything I've sort of learned in the middle of that. And once I've done it that day, I then go back and I repeat the process again. I write down what I do.
That's such a good idea. That's such a good idea.
What is good and what is not. So with ball caps, I think I've got about 15 years worth of documentation now on ball caps, with something I don't know how, but I've ended up doing a lot of. And if you go back to the very first page to the page that it is now, I mean, the journey is astronomical. Even, the wrapping techniques, how to get rid of long hair. Can you put long hair up or can you just hide it away? Because quite often now, they want that shot where you see the back of the neck. Whereas when I first started, I always hid it. I always hid it. Now I wrap the hair. I use different products, and I can see the progression of, like, I'm taking the good and I'm leaving the bad. I'm taking the good and I leave the bad behind, And then sometimes I go back and go, well, actually, that wasn't that bad. So I put it in the good list and I try it again. So it's all about just, I love the technicality of things. I love the products. I love to know what's in the products. I love to know everything about them. Basically, I just love information. So, and then the more I can manipulate that information, the more I can change it and make it do something else that it's not really supposed to do, but it works. The more things I develop from that. Can you put tattoo transfers underneath prosthetics? Yes, you can. Can you make them translucent and see a pattern underneath? Yes, you can. But how do you know until you try?
Yeah.
So I'm constantly tinkering. Tinkering.
That's
and
amazing.
I'm not the best technician, but I try, and I'm more of an application artist really. But it's the colors, and what colors work, and how do you overlay colors. And It's always how. And I
Mhm.
just, that's what I really love about it. How? Why does that work? It's not good enough that it just works. It's why does it work? What about that makes it work? Or why doesn't it work? So,
Drill down
you
to
know,
get to the bottom of it.
yeah, and I
You know,
find it really interesting just to look back on things.
It's
I
fantastic.
just love to read my and I'm very dyslexic as well. Some of these notes are handwritten, they're quite funny to read. If I've done them in a rush or something, half the time I can't understand the early ones. Now I type them, so we're all good. But
You should keep voice notes. That's what I do when I keep getting emails and stuff with questions. I tend to just record a voice because that way you don't have to write it down and it's quicker. And you can enforce it with emotion as well. Just keep little MP3s on your things. But that's such a good idea, because then it takes your brain back to where, like you say, where you were the last time you did it. But also you have a record of your triumphs and things that went wrong, and you can kind of piece it together and you go, oh, and then you can get your head in that space again and emotionally adjust, because like the emotions come from things working or not, and if you know what ones do and what ones don't, then you can actually avoid those things much more clearly, and then
yeah.
well,
have a better result.
the how is very important, but I think the why is even more important.
Oh yeah, yeah. But well, everything's important. Just understanding and gaining new bits of information. And I watch, and I can't remember what it was, but I can't even remember who it was. But I just remember watching this documentary, and they were talking to a software developer, and they were showing where he works, and I was thinking, I can't believe this. This is where this guy works, but surely he works on computers. He develops software. And then they showed this building, and it was just, there was a kitchen there, like a full chef's kitchen. There was lots of toys and children's toys and lots of different areas. And what he was trying to explain was that how can you develop something new if you don't have an array of information? So if he's developing something new, what his technique is, that he does things that he enjoys, or new things. So he takes up new hobbies. He cooks, so he tries new recipes, and then from that you discover a whole different line of investigation. So from these different I think this is what's important for students, that you can't just read from a book or a DVD or do a class and then repeat a process. That's not what it's about. This is like an artistic study of this subject. So you have to take that information, and then you need to play with it and change it, try new things. And quite often, I've found, so what I really love, so this is going to sound bonkers, but you can get these learning aids for children. And I saw them advertised, and I don't have any children, and I just thought, oh my God, that looks awesome. These science kits. And I was like, I wonder if I could get them for someone so I could just see what's in the box. And I was thinking of, my niece or my nephew, would they enjoy this? And I thought, what, I'm just going to buy myself one. So now I have them. They come on a monthly basis, and it gives you all the scientific information. From that, I've done so many different projects of things that I don't know about. They're children's kits, but they have experiments in them that you can make crystals, you can make something explode, you can make, I just thought this is really relevant to to what I'm doing, and I don't know this stuff. So, I'm there playing with the children's kit. But at the same time, I'm thinking, oh, I could adapt this. Is this skin safe? Could I use this? Can I put this on a person? Can I make something and maybe use it on a job? So it's just interesting. I think any kind of information, any kind of things that you can really grasp, and anything that you find interesting is worthwhile.
Amazing. You've got this rabid desire to know stuff, and you constantly using your brain in different ways. Like you say, with this experiment thing, I guess it takes your brain it's engaging your mind in a different way that you hadn't necessarily planned and takes you somewhere. And that's amazing.
I think, yeah,
I'm really stoked by this conversation.
great.
I want to go and get one of those now.
Well, I think it's really
Stuart's
important
God.
to increase your personal database. You know, the more experience you can get in a number of areas, I think the more readily you're going to be able to take that, even if you're not consciously aware of it, you can take that information that you've been storing up and use that to help problem solve things you didn't know you could problem solve.
Oh,
yeah, because
definitely.
I think a lot of it comes with like when you get older as well. Like I'm finding that like I have a because things have changed a lot in the industry and different materials and different processes and things, and I can find myself getting bogged down with things. And then like when you listen to like, you know, we were talking about 3D printing a few years ago and you were going to include it in your book, Todd, and you know, it was all kind of like reasonably new for public consumption. And now you and I will regularly have conversations about quite specific things within that process because just through playing with it, I've kind of included it in how I do stuff now. And now I'm not fluent in it as a language at all, but it does make me think in ways of different things. That's just a small thing. But now, Danny, you're making me want to like take up knitting or just cards or just something else that's like involving your brain, because actually
I want to know more about that science kit that makes things blow up.
I'm gonna send you a kit. Especially in lockdown, you know. I don't even know if we're still in lockdown or not anymore. But especially now, this is a great time to play and just to have a bit of fun. I think the main thing about it really is enjoyment inspires. So to keep enjoying something, you really need to, you know, you can't just do and repeat. That's not for me anyway. I know a lot of people like that. They like that steady routine. They like to do something that they know and repeat it. But that's just not.
No, I think. Do you know what I think the problem is? I think the problem is that that's the most easily scalable process for education. So that's why it becomes like the McDonald's kind of cookie cutter. If John doesn't come in, then Jane can take his place, and the fries will taste exactly the same because the process doesn't involve any creative part, and you're just a node, and you have a very specific niche series of things. So you kind of want a nation of people like that, but that doesn't work really because we need people to think outside the box and we've got so many cool things in AI and all kinds of stuff coming up. We need people to be smart with it, I guess. So I think being intelligent, not book smart, but like you say, like actually willing to feel uncomfortable and strike out in a different area and just have fun with it, play with it. And out of that play will come comfort, and out of that comfort will become a familiarity that you then might start employing your brain in a different way, and you might end up doing something completely different. But if you're happy, does it matter if you're designing something? Who's to say this is your very narrow remit? And as an older guy, I'm finding that I do have to kind of like, oh, I only know this thing, and actually you have the capacity to learn more, don't you? So fucking hell, Danny. This is awesome. I'm all excited now. I know all these books that I'm going to go through.
I do though, and you know, like sitting in the house, you know, especially during, you know, these times and stuff, and I'm just sitting around and looking around. I have like loads of books, and then every now and again I'll pull one out. But you know, there's such an array of books. Actually, I've just got, you know, books on everything. I love books, you know. So I have lots of like prosthetic magazines, lots of DVDs, lots of collections of things like that. And the things that I've been reading has been, you know, I've read a lot about abstract art, you know, classic portraiture, how to mix and use oil paints. You know, I did my A-levels in art, but it's been such a long time that I sort of been quite nice just to sit and revisit those things. And that's actually improved my paint work. So, but it's not intentional. It's not something you go out your way. I will read this book on oil paints to improve my painting. It's just, you know, if it interests you and you enjoy it, there'll always be something. You know, before I did makeup, I was a tire fitter, And guaranteed on every job, someone needs their tire changed, and it comes in useful every time. And every time I say, well, that skill's not wasted. I'm still using that skill, even if I am just changing someone's tire or just being helpful. Everything you do in life, this is why I think is, a lot of people say, oh, I don't know if I could be in this industry. I think I might be too old. I don't know if it's worth it now, because I'm past this age or past that age. I think, no, this is the best time. Imagine all the things that you've learnt over the years, like all those things can be implemented. It can be used, just being able to speak and communicate with people on a level that, perhaps someone who's 18 can't do.
Yeah.
95% of my job is being able to communicate with the actor, being able to make them feel comfortable, being able to be empathetic when they're not having a great day, being able to connect.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a lot of it.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. It just felt, that nothing is wasted, because competence is required at every turn, regardless of what it is. And I guess, like you say, you can use a familiarity and a skill in one area somewhere else in a different way, even if it's just a confidence that you can do other things. It doesn't necessarily have to be directly usable.
When I go shopping for bits and bobs at Home Depot for a project I'm working on, rarely am I using the stuff I'm getting in the hardware department.
God forbid they ask you
for
what's it for?
Used for its original purpose. Yeah, they said you wouldn't understand. Yeah, it's all for making other things.
Oh my gosh! So Danny, what are you making?
I love walking into B&Q or any kind of place like that, because I know nothing about like typical construction. I don't have a construction background, so when I walk in there, it's just a sweet shop, really, of like, does this fit with this? Does that go with that? Can I stick that to this and make that? So sometimes I think it's just great not to know. So
yeah, you haven't limited yourself. Yeah.
No, because I'm looking at tubing, I'm looking at strapping, and sometimes, my dad has come with me. He's like, you can't use that for this, that screw's got to go with that. And I'm like, no, I was thinking of like making some horns, or, I'm constantly picking things up, putting them on my head, or, nobody likes to come to B&Q with me. Nobody likes it. But, anywhere I go, I'm constantly thinking like, how do I adapt this? This is really cool fabric, or, can I take something from this and make something else? It's just really interesting. And sometimes, I'm thankful. Sometimes I'm not thankful that I don't have a construction background. I wish I learned a little bit more. But then other times I'm thinking, well, I'm managing, so is okay, and I'm using all the things for different reasons.
I think it's good. I think if you have to make something that people live in, then yeah, you do need to do that rigid, regulation. But you're talking about like taking something from another industry and like just messing with it and using it in a different way. That, like you said, you find these things and, can I use this for such and such? Obviously, or use the things as science make.
Oh yeah, well, we use plumbing supplies for blood rigs.
Well, exactly that. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and or I make foam injectors out of plumbing pipes.
Yes, and when I've made up blood rigs and stuff, I can remember like my dad showing me how to repair a puncture on my bicycle, and like there are things that I did then with tools that I'm using now, and they're not the same thing, but they kind of feed in, which is what you were saying, Dan, isn't it? It's like this kind of, you're pulling in the things you need, and the more you fill your tank with all these other things, the more stuff you've got to draw on. It doesn't have to be like, if you want to do this, you have to learn this line of inquiry. It's like, because that's a very rigid way of thinking.
And then, is taking that and then take it to another level. Make sure there's some research that goes behind it. If you have found something, make sure it is skin safe. Read up about it. Research about the product. That's what I like, just genuinely digging.
Mm-hmm.
Just you're constantly digging at things to find new purposes, new reasons for using them, or cheaper ways of working.
So are you on anything at the moment? Are you doing stuff yourself or having fun with anything? This is not a job inquiry, but I'm just finding out how you're using your time at the moment. Are you like surrounded by some sculpting stuff, or you got like a wet canvas next to you ready to paint, or
Oh, Stuart, you wouldn't want to see my house right now.
or like me, a bunch of sweet wrappers and empty cans, like woo, like.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's me too. I think so. Last year I sort of set up my own studio space, which is amazing. And then obviously we hit this, and I sort of had to move everything out from there, which was a bit devastating. You know, I'd worked like good couple of years to sort of achieve that. And now everything's, so I have a small workshop in my garden, and it's big enough to work in. So everything's back in there. I've decluttered everything. And I'm just constantly doing stuff. I'm constantly, you know, going in, playing with things, but I'm not doing it for any purpose. So it feels quite free. You know, I'm not doing, you know, I've got nothing in the calendar. I'm not booked for any jobs at the moment. So hopefully soon, anybody listening, I'm free, available. But it's nice, you know, like as much as it's been really, is you know, I saw your Instagram post the other day and I thought it was absolutely brilliant, where you've put, you know, those theatrical masks, one happy, one sad, and that literally has been like me throughout this entire process, you know, because it's such a up and down experience of like, I really want to be doing this, oh I can't do it, oh I really want to be doing it, oh I want to go out, I want to do this, I want to. So it's just at the moment just trying to find peace with, and that could be doing anything. So yesterday I was doing some Marcel waving work, just trying to improve that. But I'm not getting up in the morning and thinking I have a strict list of things that I must be doing, and I'm spending time with my family and making sure that I'm around. And you know, there's a lot of things going on at the moment at home, and it's just being there, being able to spend time while I can now with my grandparents who are getting, you know, older, my siblings and my parents, and having that time really without too much pressure of, you know, I've got to do this right now, because we don't. Yeah. We're not going. There is no work. So, you know, it'll all be there. When it all starts back up, it'll all be there. Yeah. We'll be working hard, I'm sure. So it's best to use this time. And I'm really loving, you know, seeing other people doing things, and, you know, doing their online education and encouraging other people. And I have thought whether, you know, oh man, I should be doing that as well. You know, I should be doing these things. And I just thought, actually, you know, this is family time for me now, and just appreciating spreading a little bit of love and appreciating the people around me.
There'll always be other things, but one thing's taught us, you know, this thing has taught us is the people around you, like you say, the connections. It's very important to keep those going, and at a time where you can't otherwise do much else, it's a good time to kind of you know, get close to that.
Yeah, exactly. How have you been keeping yourself busy?
You've been busy.
Oh, boy.
Very busy boy.
Well, I've had a few projects. I've got a little one that I'm working on right now, where I'm doing some masks for I think is going to be a Halloween show at a theme park in Utah. I did some second unit effects work on a feature film up in the Black Hills of South Dakota. Somewhere in the Black Mining Hills of Dakota, there lived a young boy named Rocky Raccoon. Up in that part of the country for a period horror Western, which was really fun. Got to do some nice bloody gags for that. I'm tending some plants in the garden, and I've got a koi pond that keeps me occupied. It's nice that we have Stuart's been to my house a number of times. My backyard is one of my favorite parts of the house, because it's fenced in, and like I can get away from it all just by going
It's a decent.
outside.
You got like that workshop out back with
That sounds
storage, and then you
lovely.
got little sections of the barbecue, area, and that was all cool.
Yeah, and I've cleaned it out in the back, so now
That's
I
nice,
can
really.
actually walk in there and not knock things off the shelves. Because I've been using some of this downtime to go through. I've got so many molds that I don't need anymore, so I've literally thrown out tons of plaster and silicone since this all started, and it's nice that it's still a daunting task to think that, oh my God, I would hate to have to pack up this shop to move it someplace else.
It reminds me of the loft in the Goonies, your place.
But it's yeah, I've got some space.
Well, I got
Yeah, I'm just this far away from being on an
it's
episode
clearing
of
stuff out
Hoarders.
is hard work though, because especially if you've kept it for a reason, you're like, well, I never got to do anything with that, but the second I throw it out.
Oh, and that just happened. That happened about a month ago. I was going through these molds, and I found it was for a children's production, theater production called Tomato Plant Girl, and it was a mold for a mask to turn the actor's head into a tomato. So the face would be there, and the rest of the head's a tomato. And I said, I don't need this thing anymore. So I threw it away that afternoon. I mean, the trash. I watched the trash truck come and haul it away, and I walked back inside. Came back down to my office, and the phone rang. And it was actually, I think it was an email from an actress I'd worked with who's now
Like, no,
living
you don't get to
in
ask me that
Minneapolis.
question
And
now.
she said, "Do you still have the mold for
The
Tomato
Truman
Plant
Show.
Girl?" I said, "Oh man, I threw it." Oh man,
Yeah.
So,
Oh god.
yeah.
I've been
It's
trying to learn
guaranteed
No,
though.
I
3D
don't.
printing.
I don't have
more,
it
so I've
anymore,
been
but I
printing
can
things.
make
I've been
another one.
sculpting on ZBrush, trying to get my head around that, making little inroads, and that's taking me to all sorts of places. And that head thing, which I think I showed you, and the little one. So I've been having fun with I've got my Photon S. I've been really
I
enjoying
love that.
3D printing,
Yeah,
and
they
that
look great.
that
Ooh, kitty one. Polymax.
Polymax. Holy shit, it's amazing.
That's good stuff.
It's really good stuff. So I've been this really nice filament I've been using, and just going into scary areas with ZBrush and realizing actually it's not that scary. Once you know what that thing does, it just becomes another way of doing the thing that you've always done, but you just didn't call it that thing before.
And 2021 now has dynamics built into it.
Oh, with the fabric,
Yeah.
which is interesting because what I was going to do with that was having it push through fabric.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I can actually do that in ZBrush. I was just going to do it with wet plaster on a piece of fabric, but now I actually do it for real in ZBrush. So for me, it's been a case of like facing these demons, and it's taken me. I mentioned this before. It's taken me about 10 years to pluck up the courage to use ZBrush. I've owned it for about 8 years, and I haven't actually really. I go in there, I get scared, I come out again. I'm terrified of it, and that is eroding. Every day, I'm getting a little bit less afraid of it, and it's like. There's nothing to actually be afraid of. It's weird. I think it's because the idea of making something matters so much to me that if how that happens is in an arena that I can't control or understand, that's scary to me. But obviously that goes away the more you do it because it starts to make sense. So
Yeah, well, and you know that making mistakes is the only way you learn something. But I seem to be making lots of mistakes in ZBrush, and I don't seem to be learning anything.
Yeah, well, that Danger Girl sculpt was good. But here's the thing. I mean, I will say this on the podcast and I'll do it in classes about not being afraid to make mistakes, but I myself, I'm not immune to it. I still have that fear. I'm still afraid to do something wrong because you might spend ages doing something and then press the wrong button. And I did it this afternoon. I spent about an hour on a sculpt and then somehow clicked on something and then it was the old other sculpt on there and I didn't know where to, and I'll figure it out. I've just got to tweak my interface because the way like that little history bar at the top, I get with the nib, and I just realized, you just go to your brush preferences, you can switch that off, so you don't, or whatever it is, your preferences, you can get rid of that. So it's all doable. It's just knowing that you can do that. The pressure of learning. It's just like anything, isn't it? It's just not being afraid to make mistakes. So even I will talk about making mistakes, and I'm still terrified to make them. So that doesn't go away. But I am also enjoying the gains that I'm getting from it. So it's good to use this time productive. But yeah, I'd be lying if I said, oh, I can now speak Cantonese and I can ride a unicycle and I've got the cure for bloody COVID and that I've figured out in my coding class that I'm not. No, so it's.
I think everybody sort of went into all of this going, okay, it looks like we might have a month off. Let's do something epic, let's learn. I'm going to learn all these languages. I'm going to spend every minute of the day, like really studying something new. And then you realize, oh my God, we're 5 months in. And I still am not a linguist. I've still not done all those things on my list, but I've done
because everyone's looking outside.
I'm getting closer to being an alcoholic.
I'm getting there a little closer myself. Amazing.
And now I'm gonna try zebra.
Definitely.
Have you bought it?
No, I haven't. I'm a bit. I've put it off for years and years and years doing it. I'm like, I don't want to do it digitally. No, I don't. I like my hands in the clay.
ZBrush Core Mini is free.
Is it?
Get comfortable with
I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna do it.
Get yourself a little Wacom pen tool. I bought the little bamboo tablet. I think it's about the size of an A4 piece of paper. I use that. I've got all the gear, Stuart, but just no idea. No, do that. It's because it's free and skirt around it a bit. But I think you will enjoy it. I'm enjoying it more than I thought I would because it's not clay. And I kept saying every time I pick up the pen tool, I would say to myself in my head out loud, "This is not fucking clay." And so I'm comparing it with that. And it's the wrong thing to do. I have tried it in the past, and that's been, sometimes we do put a block on things, especially if you enjoy it. I enjoy really messy work. So anything computer based or with a screen, I'm sort of missing that tactile feeling of like getting messy. I totally get that. Moving things around with your hands. But like you said, you really have got to work through it, and you've got to try these things. So I think, definitely now hearing you speak about it is something that I've been wanting to do for a while. I bought all the gear and I keep going in and getting really scared and come back out again. So yeah, definitely going to give it a go. And I'll be messaging you going, I don't know if I can do it.
I've got a few files I can send you, Danny, that might help you work through some of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would
seriously,
be amazing.
If I can do it, you can do it. I am a complete...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no. Stuart, I can't get my camera to work on my laptop.
I don't think that's down to you. I think that's the browser that's playing out. I think that's something to...
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so Danny, if people want to see more of your stuff, where can they find you? I guess in Instagram, you're probably quite... What's your Instagram?
It is Danny Marie Elias.
Fabulous.
It's just my name.
I'll put that link into the show notes.
And I'm working on doing more. I'm a little bit lazy with social media. I just find that's really daunting as well. That's another kettle of fish. Social media is a whole nother ball game as well. And sometimes I get a little bit too precious about what I'm putting on there or how I show things, and I'm not quite at that place yet where I'm really free and I'm posting the things that I'm working on. Most of the time it's because you can't. So by the time you're allowed to show things, I sort of feel like the time has passed. So it might be something you've worked on 2 years ago, and it's completely out of my mind, but it's fresh for everyone else. And I sort of, once I've finished working on something, I get a little bit bored, and there's been 10 other projects after that I'm really excited about, or the project I'm working on is exciting me at that time. So I forget to show anything, but I'll work on it. I'll give it a go.
It's all anyone can ask.
And also, I do get a lot of students firing questions and things like that, over on Facebook or Instagram. I'm approachable, and I'm always happy to sort of speak to people. So if anybody wants to pop over a message, or if they got any questions about anything, I'm always quite happy to do that.
We'll put the links in the show notes, and
awesome.
On your head be it.
and you'll be watch me. I'll post like a million things in the next couple of days now because I've been like, there's nothing on my Instagram.
There may not be a lot of posts on your Instagram, but what's there is pretty cool.
Fabulous. Amazing. Well, thank you, Danny. That's awesome. Thank you very much for the chat. And thanks, Danny. It was awesome.
Yeah, pleasure as always.
Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah, definitely. It was lovely speaking to you both. Nice to have a good old chat.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, and you guys.
Thanks for listening. Now go visit Stuart and Todd at battleswithbitsofrubber.com and leave them a fun voice message. Or, you can email them at stuartandtodd@gmail.com. As always, please tell a friend about this podcast. This is your announcer, Billy, and I work for free, because I'm not real. Really.